Konami announced their new ban list today, and although they didn't hit tier, I think that there's three decks that are going to be added to this format that a lot of people are going to enjoy playing. The decks definitely hard counter the meta, and it's gotten a lot of support. So let's get into these three decks that you can play for this format to completely catch these tier limit and sprite players out of the blue. So the first deck we're going to talk about here is Inspector Border Stun. Inspector Border Stun is a classic strategy of just making sure your opponent doesn't get to play Yu-Gi-Oh! And what we use here are the Banisher of Radiance, Banisher of Light, newly unlimited copies of Dimensional Fissure and Macrocosmos to ensure 10 copies of cards that are just going to banish all of our opponent's tier limit monsters. In addition to that, we can lock our opponent from special summoning or activating monster effects thanks to Inspector Border. And we get to protect them with cards like Moon Mirror Shield, Armory Call, and Phantom Knight Sword, while also playing a plethora of Floodgates, Monster Effect Negates, and Omni Negates. And finally, to top it off with a couple of consistency cards like the Pot of Duality and Pot of Extravagance. I'm going to provide all the download links in the description box below, so let's just talk about the deck and really understand what's going on here. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to set up a board that just prevents our opponent from playing Yu-Gi-Oh! And then our opponent's going to be really sad when they lose the dice roll. It's a very gimmicky deck, and it's going to be extremely cheap to buy, very budget friendly. If you are looking for a budget deck to play this format, this might be the one for you. It definitely beats the brakes off decks like Tier Limit, since they can't utilize their graveyard. Us having 10 copies of cards that prevent that make it kind of a toxic deck to play against, especially when losing the dice roll. The next deck we're going to talk about is Tri-Brigade Lyrilus. Now, I myself am not very well versed on it. This is kind of just a hastily built list thrown together, but this is a deck that I feel like could definitely do some damage in this format. Thanks to the newly semi-limited Lyrilus monster, we can search GD Crow a little bit more effectively, again countering the tier limits. We also have 3 copies of Fire Formation Tenki, basically giving us 6 copies of Tri-Brigade Fractal. In addition to that, another really powerful card in this deck is the ability to make the Utopic Draco Future. Utopic Draco Future is going to be a really annoying card for a lot of decks to try and get over, since it does protect itself. This deck is extremely consistent thanks to Lyrilus Bird Call, allowing us to send whatever missing Lyrilus that we need. And thanks to the namesake Bird Up, we can definitely get our advantage up on our opponent while making cards like Omen and Farajit, and also locking our opponent out of the game when we do our Cerberus combo, thanks to our Herald of the Arclight. The deck is a lot of fun, and I think that it definitely has some potential to be played in this format, mostly because of the ability to search DD Crow, but if you guys have a better list for this, definitely try it out. Gamma allows you to protect your combo while also giving you access to Link 2 plays. You could also play cards like Sprite Elf. There's tons of options for this deck. It's super consistent, definitely going to give this deck a try for this format. The last deck we're going to talk about, however, is an oldie but a goldie. They just recently said, you know what, we're just going to put Tellarknight Ptolemaeus straight to 3. And the crazy part about that is this deck is extremely powerful at just putting 3 level 4 monsters on the field. In addition to that, we can also make our Dark Tellarknight Battlemaius and flip a card such as Shadow Imprisoning Mirror, completely locking any deck out of the game, because the Battlemaius allows us to turn all face-up monsters into darks, and since all their activated effects will be negated thanks to Shadow Imprisoning Mirror, we get to sit on a 2600 beat stick while locking our opponent out of playing Yu-Gi-Oh! In addition to that, it also gives us a more consistent way to make Stellar Constellar Diamond. Diamond also has an incredible ability that neither player can send a card from the deck to the graveyard, and any card that returns from the graveyard to the hand will be banished instead, so no recursion for our opponent. Also, in addition to that, anytime our opponent's dark monster activates its effect, we can detach material and negate. On top of that, Constellar Diamond is also a Constellar in addition to a Tellarknight. So we can actually make our M7 on top, put a Thunder Charger on top of that, and then make a Zeus and have a 6 material Zeus. Anyone that's had to deal with that before definitely would not appreciate it. Another really powerful thing about this deck is it gets to play floodgates that most decks don't. Now, while we don't want to play cards like Dimension Fissure, Macrocosmos, or D-Shifter, because we're definitely worried about our opponent preventing us from putting Stellar Knights in the graveyard, so why would we do it ourselves? We get to play cards like Soul Drain, and our opponent is going to be milling us if they are playing a Shizu Tier Limit, which allows us to play even more off of our Altair, giving us a pretty solid going second option. Also, we get the powerful counter traps, which a lot of decks don't get this format. For example, we have Teller Knight Alpha, which lets us negate any card effect. It's an Omni negate. And also send a Teller Knight monster we control to the graveyard to do that. And if we do, we destroy it and we get to draw a card. So, super powerful card. Definitely creates a very dramatic amount of advantage. And then also, we get our Teller Nova Wave, which can be searched with our Deneb. And this card allows us to play on our opponent's turn. Now, while we aren't going to get any crazy profitable effects, we are going to be able to recycle our Deneb. We also get to play our Soul Drain, like I said earlier, and Ice Dragon's Prison, which will allow us to take our opponent's tier limit monsters, and we can either keep the Sharon to make a rank 4 play, or we can banish it and their Kick Kalos, and then their turn is essentially over. We also get to play consistency cards like Pot of Prosperity, allowing us to dig 6 deep for that Deneb or the Altair or the Bridge, whatever missing piece we need, in order to make our 3 material Ptolemaeus, and then use the Ptolemaeus to make Diamond, and then essentially lock out the opponent. In addition to that, we've had a plethora of rank 5s come out in the recent years, and while the deck can make a Abyss Dweller, it's just more consistent to make the Ptolemaeus and then go into the Diamond, since they won't be able to send cards from deck to graveyard anyways. And then also we are playing Soul Drain. However, if you do want to opt for a copy of Dweller, I totally understand. It's a very powerful card, this format. Uh, but like I was saying about the rank 5s, you can play any rank 5 you want. You can even make Cyber Dragon Infinity, the new Chronomaly monster, the new Raid Raptor, Tyrus if you want protection, and even give us access to the Utopia package, which is just so powerful. So these are 3 decks I feel will definitely make awesome rogue contenders. You will definitely see them in the top 32 at regionals. You might even see them in the top 8. Super consistent decks, a lot more fun to play, and I really kind of like what Konami did. Instead of hurting a new popular deck that a lot of people spent a lot of money on, they figured, hey, we'll just, make the balanced format by making everything unbalanced and creating a huge power surge in a lot of rogue decks. And I really think that's going to be a healthy thing for the game. Really enjoying, looking forward to playing in this format, and really enjoy these 3 decks. If you guys want, I'm going to put the download links in the description box below, and you can play test them on Dueling Book yourself, and, send me some lists in the Discord. Make sure you guys put the comments down below. Make sure you guys go follow Pow Manga Mats on Facebook, while also using the promo code GORS10% to save 10% on any of their mats. Make sure you guys go ahead and check out Legendary Phoenix Games on Facebook, and if you're ever in the Georgia area and want to play some GOAT format, we've been playing some GOAT format there. This has been Gores, signing off.